way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, 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 down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Oh. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shouting loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need who want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning, Eric Dawson. How are you?
I'm here, man.
Yeah, it's Friday, right?
It is Friday. Is it raining outside?
Yeah, it's raining.
You know what? I didn't even get a chance to look outside. Amina came downstairs. She said, "Is it raining?" I said, "You know what? I don't even know."
Yeah.
I don't even know.
This has been one long holiday season.
Already, Kev?
Yes.
You're only the third day into the new year, man. Only the third day into the new year, and all hell is breaking loose.
Things are happening all over the world, right?
All over the world, man. It doesn't stop. You know, it really doesn't stop. And you know, I don't think we can either, man. I think we have to be perpetual in what we do in order to match the energy and the conniving nature of the corporation of white supremacy.
Yeah, I guess you're right
you
about that.
You understand what I'm saying, kid? We got, hey, man, I get up in the morning, I do my stretches, I rub my Bengay on, man. I say, all right, I wait for you to Skype in and say, let's get at it.
Yeah, right?
Let's get at it, man. So how'd you sleep last night?
Yeah, it's pretty good evening otherwise. I did something, I tried to do something mindless yesterday, you know, but that didn't happen. Of course, when I saw that the Iranian commander was killed, I paid more attention to that. I normally don't watch, regular news anymore, but I turned on my TV and saw that it happened because it was on my phone, so I started watching that.
Yeah.
And I was all involved in that because, we've talked about the destabilization of the Middle East last year, I believe, on the show.
Right.
And we talked about what the Americans' foreign policy and the damage it's done to that area, and it caused a great migration around the world. Mm-hmm. And obviously, nobody wants to stabilize the Middle East. They want to further destabilize it. So I don't think that was a good thing yesterday.
There's a lot of money involved in that.
Oh, without question. No, without question.
And not only that, but we were chatting, you, me, and Diane. I predicted it, man. I thought, I knew something was going to happen. Anytime you have a leader, whether it's somebody at the local level or somebody at the national level, and then you become embroiled in a crisis, folks are less likely to seek change because they're already unstable. They don't know what's going on, and then they start saying, well, in the middle of this thing, do we really want to bring somebody new into the White House? Do we want to change the guard in the middle of trying to resolve this thing? And trust and believe that is going to be the narrative. Donald Trump has been pushing and pushing and pushing and threatening and pushing and pushing. And he finally got it. Finally got what he wanted.
Well, it's really interesting when we talk about Donald Trump and his foreign policy. It's a foreign policy of one. At least I can give Bush Jr., a little credit. I was against the war, but I gave Bush a little credit. He had a diplomatic service. He had, people that were aware of what was happening around the world, be it negative or positive. But we have a president that does not have a diplomatic service that is giving him great advice. His national advisors have left the building. He's in a building making these decisions based on talking to Jared Kushner or Netanyahu or talking to some extreme, radical, crazy person sitting in his office. Outside of starting the war or starting a war, attempting to start a war, thinking that this was a rational thing to do. And Iran is not that kind of country that you engage in that kind of warfare with. They're very, very effective. They're very smart. They have a very, very strong government. And I think what Obama did earlier when he was the president, later when he was the president, of trying to strike a deal with them was the most responsible thing you can do. So I think what Trump has attempted to do is destabilize Iran because he's cut a deal. He's cut a deal with Saudi Arabia.
Correct.
Jared Kushner has been for a relationship because of the extreme right that's working out of Israel to try to destabilize Iran. Which I just thought was a foolish strategy because what did Iran do? They went into Saudi Arabia and blew up their oil fields, and they will continue to blow up everything in the Middle East. And Iran has a stronghold with Russia between Syria and Iraq. So I don't know what their end game is. Now, their end game might be to confuse the marketplace here, but the Middle East is a pretty sophisticated place when it comes to this kind of warfare. And I think he's put a lot of Americans in jeopardy. This was the equivalent of you killing Petraeus or Mateus. This was the equivalent of you killing a Secretary of State. If you know anything about the Iranians, they take this kind of stuff serious. So now you got a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran and Yemen, and now you're going to have a bigger proxy war. And the rest of the world just told Trump yesterday, we're not standing with you on this. We don't want to have anything to do with you on this. I don't know if you saw Nancy Pelosi's comments, where she said, this is a disaster.
Well, she wants to understand why. She wants to know what the impetus was that led to this. And this is just going to open up another... But listen to how clever this is. The idea here is twofold, I believe, with this administration, Kevin. One is to continue to drive a wedge between the Democrats and the Republicans in order for Donald Trump to strengthen his base. The second one is, as you said, to work this deal with Saudi Arabia. Got Kushner there. We understood from the very beginning of him bringing him into the White House what that was going to be all about, and we see it unfolding now. And there is also this master distraction, right? So you just send explosions all over the place. People become distracted about it. Meanwhile, you're robbing the coffers. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And I think that people need to pay a little bit more attention to it, stay focused on it, don't get distracted by the apparent talking points of the Republican Party now that literally is just seeking to discredit everything that the Democrats say. Now, the Democrats have to hold the bag on this, right? Because they've discredited themselves so much that they've made it easy for the Republicans to say, don't believe anything they say. Everything they say is political. Nothing they say has any merit to it. Because we've talked about Obama, talked about other folks within the Democratic Party. Both parties are horrible, and it makes it real difficult now to take some moral high ground. When it comes to a situation like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, Obama, as far as I have to give Obama's administration credit for getting Iran to the table and agreeing to the nuclear, agreeing with the nuclear agreement they agreed to sign, and it kind of stabilized relationships. I mean, Trump's policy is to dismiss Iran, and it's not going to work the way he thinks it's going to work. I mean, look at this morning, the stock market's plunged. Now, when Saudi Arabia's oil fields were blown up, and they accused the Iranians of doing it. They never proved it. The stock market was pretty stable, but now the stock market is unstable. It's dropped. It's going to plummet probably there again because this is the appetite for another war. And and Trump, the Trump of one, his diplomacy, his foreign policy is him twittering and him talking to himself. And if he thinks this is a wag the dog scenario, I think he's gravely mistaken. I mean, remember when America got involved in the war with Iraq, they had a coalition of countries. There are going to be no coalition of countries standing by Trump.
But Kevin, again, there are multiple things here. One is the Middle East, the foreign policy of one, as you say, where the end goal is in terms of securing an even better relationship from his standpoint with Saudi Arabia, all about money. The second part is about power and securing the White House for 4 more years. And so as they're doing one, they're working to shore up the other one. So when we were having a conversation about, national poll numbers and then numbers within these swing states, when you say America doesn't have an appetite, let's dig into these states that he's trying to win. Because make no mistake, as he's thinking about what he's doing, when he was thinking about those airstrikes, somebody was talking to him about how he was going to poll in those swing states. Not how he was going to poll nationally. Not whether all of America had an appetite or not. But in those swing states, whether or not those people had an appetite, whether he can convince them when he goes around that he's a strong president and that, he's doing what's best for America. And in the end, this is going to be the best thing. And to say to them, and you don't want to rock the boat now as we go into, this 2020 election. You want to keep, my hand, a steady hand, as he'll put it. Look at the economy. You want to keep a steady hand, on.
I think that if that is his plan, normally I would agree that plan would work, and that's the whole wag the dog scenario. I'm a leader. We're at war. We have an enemy. But I think that this is not. If he is looking at that as a broader strategy, I think it's a very, very interesting strategy. I said because if it would have been a war against something that was done to America, because if you look at the intel, this is what I call the deep state.
Well, you hear what they're saying, though. They're saying that they have intel. Now, I'm not saying that they're right.
I'm going to comment about that. The deep state can listen. I mean, if you don't know anything about foreign policy, which you do, I mean, when they say they have intel, well, that intel will never get to you. This is the same thing Bush Jr. did. Right. The war in Iraq. I mean, the Trump administration has no intel. They have no structure within their organization, within their administration, for me to trust what they say. Because look, it is clear that administration is in bed with Saudi Arabia. It is clear that they are a singular focused on destabilizing Iran for some apparent reason to help Israel, which is illogical. All they did for me today was strengthen Iran's position in the region, and all he did is push people back to the sidelines because nobody trusts him. Nobody trusts this president nobody trusts this president at that level.
Well, don't say nobody, but this is what I'm saying. You're making this broad statement.
But no. So you're not listening to me. I'm saying to you, I agreed with you. But I'm saying if that is his strategy or his political strategy, I'm saying to you, I'm suspect of it. I don't think it's
No, I understand you're suspect, but when you say nobody trusts him, that's not accurate.
In the world, they don't trust him. None of the British don't trust him. In London, don't trust him. The Germans don't trust him. Nobody trusts him. I mean, it's right. Documented through all of the data. They don't trust him.
Here's the question. See, when I hear you say nobody, I'm thinking foreign and domestically, right? So always looking at that guy, meaning Donald Trump, base. So it doesn't matter if nobody in the world trusts him, nobody nationally or internationally trusts him, rather. The question for him is, as he's looking in those tabs or those polls, how's he looking? What do people say?